Okay. Yaakov Ishki Bariah, the third line down. Yaakov Ishki Bariah. Yaakov from the town of Gibariah. Shol Rabbi Chagai, asked Rabbi Chagai, Me'ata, let us say, Nola ben Hashmoshos, Nimo ben Hashmoshos. Let's say if a kid is born on in a twilight period a week ago, whatever that twilight period is, that Nimo ben Hashmoshos, let him be able to go and get his bris milah the following week, ben Hashmoshos. In other words, if he's born, let's say between Shabbos and Motzoi Shabbos, in the twilight period, let him get his bris milah the following week between Shabbos and Motzoi Shabbos. Now says the Gemara Amar Lei, so he said, it's interesting because these are two ben Hashmoshos is obviously the daytime. Amar Lei, so he says in its response, Ilu avinan ana va'at olin b'chad tara. Were I and you to go in the same gate together, could we make it perfectly, exactly together simultaneously? It's not possible. So too here, it's not possible to know precisely when Ben Hashmoshos is day and when Ben Hashmoshos is night, and therefore we have no capacity to be precise and make a bris milah corresponding 8 days later to the time when it was Ben Hashmoshos, definitely day 8 days earlier.
So that's all according to one of the views of what Ben Hashmoshos is about.
Right. This is a very, very strange assumption. It's an assumption that the Ben Hashmoshos is day, but a period unto itself. And the response is that it's not definitely day, and therefore we don't know exactly when to make it. Okay? So it's kind of a very strange discussion. Says Shmuel says if a person was seized by fever, a person was a kid was seized by fever, mamtinin lo shloshim yom, so you push over his bris milah automatically 30 days. You push over the bris in case of fever 30 days. Osam shloshim yom ma'ul achilu chol of truma. That 30 days, can you give him milk of truma? Now, Process portion means that you grind up wheat and you get some sort of milky substance from it. But I remember learning somewhere that the Yerushalmi actually holds that the milk that comes from a cow which ate truma, I think we learned this during in Shvius even, that a cow which eats produce, which is truma, generates milk which has a din of truma. Or a cow which eats produce of Shvius generates milk which has a din of Shvius. So I seem to recall something of that. Did any of you recall anything of that? Okay, so maybe I'm making it up. But that could be another shot here. Sounds good, right? So chol of truma would mean then that not a paste made of the truma, but rather a cow which consumed truma grain that now produces milk. So of course we know an orel can't eat truma. So can this kid who's in the temporary orel, can he eat truma?
It also makes more sense that it's actual chalav because a child less than 30 years old
you can't have ground up wheat, right?
So it's going to be milk.
By malusuka and also malusuka shemen truma. Can you anoint it with oils of truma? Let's hear from the following case. So orel v'chol tmeim, a person who's an orel uncircumcised. Now, uncircumcised here means even if he's bonus, it's not his fault. He's a hemophiliac or something like that. Anybody's telling me, they cannot eat truma. Their shem v'avdeim yochlu, their servants and their wives can eat truma. In other words, it's a special din on them because they have a foreskin, but it's not a din on their wives and slaves. So Rabbi Yachus, so in any event, what we see from here is that if you're an orel, even if you're an orel ba'ones, so not your fault, you still can't eat truma. Rabbi Yachus b'shem Rabbi Tana over here said, ain't orel miyom hashmini v'halon. There is no oil except for the 8th day, meaning until the 8th day the kid can consume milk of truma. The Tana came also into the brisa. Kol shloshim yom, for the 30 days, if he has his bris pushed off, asla achilu chol of truma, you can't give him milk of truma to eat, l'suchu b'shem and truma, nor to anoint it with oil of truma. But the first of the 7 days, Bepachas is mutter. Now, Leil Shmini, what about Ma'at Avalo? What do you do with the 8th night? In other words, the bris milah you can only have in the morning. What do you do with the night? Is that already considered to be the 8th day, or is it part of the first 7? Nafkamina being our issue, where the difference being whether he can consume during that time truma or not. So says the Gemara, no. From the time that, from that which you learned by Karbanos, and on the 8th night you already can sacrifice a korban or make ma'aser behema out of an animal.
Meaning that's suitable for the mizbeach ready from the 8th night. Even though you can't sacrifice actually based on Mikdash till tomorrow morning, but it's considered suitable to be a sacrifice, and therefore you can separate it from ma'aser behema for the 1/10 of your animal, even at the night of the 8th day. So from this is derived that the night of the 8th day is like the 8th day, and therefore at that point you can no longer give the kid to eat truma because he gets the status of norel. The Tanya came, he also learned in the Brayso, kol shiva siyamim, 7 days. You're allowed to give milk of truma to drink, v'suchu shem and truma, and anoint the blood of truma, but not after 7 days have passed. Okay, even at the 8th night, you can't give it to him anymore. These are the pieces of flesh which impede the kashrus of the milah. Basar chuvis rova Torah, the flesh which surrounds the majority of the crown of the aver. If that's still intact, ain't ochel b'truma, not allowed to eat truma. If a person was fat and therefore looks like he has an orla, and he fixes it, he trims it, in order people shouldn't think he is an orla. Marvel of parsimila, if he didn't rip the membrane on top of the exposed part of the aver, so kill lo mouth if he didn't do bris milah. What are these tufts of flesh which impede the kashrus of the bris milah? Rabbeinu said besides the majority of the circumference of the aver, it is also rov govash Torah. If you have in one spot the majority of the height of the crown of the aver, so that in of itself also is considered to be tzitzim akvas milah, impediment to the kashrus of the milah. Rabbi Tavai b'shem Shmuel well said, how do we know if he's got that flesh there? You check him out and at a time when he has an erection to see if that what kind of flesh is left there, and whether it's too much and it's considered that the bris milah didn't take effect. Okay, Tani, we learned. I'm sorry, Movelo Paras Milah Kilomar. The person did a bris milah, but it didn't rip the membranes as if he didn't do a bris milah. Tani, we learned Varnish Koris, the guy who did the bris milah, the moyel. If he did the milah on Shabbos and didn't do the priya, he gets koris. Why? Because he's mechal Shabbos. He didn't do the mitzvah milah. Mitzvah milah is do milah and priya, right? So he didn't do it. Rabbi Yaakov Sherevil said, it's only if he doesn't have enough time on Shabbos to finish it off. It's got enough time for Shabbos to go back and finish it off. He goes back and finishes off the priya. He doesn't have to be concerned about being chayav koris. Tani, we learn kol shosh sheisek milah, as long as the person is involved in milah, he can go back and do the flesh which is an impediment to the kashrus of the milah, or even on those which are not an impediment to the kashrus of the milah. Piresh, once he stopped, he could go back for those ridges of flesh which are impediment to the kashrus of the bris milah. Rabbi Rabbi Yehuda says, we learned just last night, once you start a mitzvah, you can even go back and finish the unessential parts of mitzvah, even the tzitzim which are not an impediment to the kashas of the mitzvah. In Piresh, In Piresh Chayzer, right. Hi, Dain Rabbi Yossi. Where do we see this Rabbi Yossi? Hating Rabbi Yossi, he, which Rabbi Yossi? Nina Tamo, we learned over there. Yontiv, Shabbos, when the first day Sukkot comes on Shabbos, B'Shochach, and he forgot about his Lula B'Shus Rami to go Lula Tershus Rabbi. Potter Nation Tir B'Shus, he's exempt because he took it out with permission. Why? Because there's a mitzvah today, and he thought, well, there should have been a mitzvah today, there isn't, but he was told b'dvar mitzvah, he thought he was doing it with permission, so therefore he's exempt from punishment. Is that true even by a mila knife and even by matzah if he takes it out? Now which Rabbi Yehuda said name Rabbi Yehuda, he appears close there, that even on the meat with the flesh is not a impediment of the kashas of the mila. You can go back and do them. Or the Amra teaches us that anything which is even peripheral to the mitzvah is considered to be part and parcel of the mitzvah, and therefore you're allowed to go back and get your knife or get the matzah, etc., etc. Well, I shouldn't say you're allowed to. If you did it, then you're tov b'dvar mitzvah, and you don't have to bring a carbon to atone for yourself. Okay?
Now, when you have this Gemara,
That's not it. Exactly the same. Right? Same thing, exactly the same, verbatim. Hajjah Perik Rebbe Lezer. New Perik. Last Perik in the Gemara by Yerushalmi. Rebbe Lezer Omer. Time out of sir. Rebbe Lezer Omer. Tell us how Mishmeres B'Yontif. Rebbe Lezer says you're allowed to. Now I'm going to learn this like the Mashbiach because the Gemara here is difficult. You don't learn it like the Mashbiach. What it happens is we're talking about Midin Ohel. I'm sorry, Dr. Spadell, bro. It was hot. Let's imagine this is what you're using, and you're putting on a cloth in order to strain the wine on Shabbos, right? On Yom Tov, actually. So putting on the cloth, the way the Mashbiach learns, even though it says tolin, it doesn't actually mean you're allowed to put it there. This is the cloth. If it's there, you're allowed to put it in place. Okay, you're allowed to adjust. Tolin means to pull it in place. You're allowed to put Kornei Mishmeres with strain on Yom Tov in place. But nice and little clear b'Shabbos, and although you're not even allowed to stretch on Shabbos and put it in place, but if it's already there, you're allowed to pour wine in it in order to separate the dregs from the wine. You're not allowed to even stretch it on Yom Tov. And it goes out saying you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos. You're not even allowed to put into one which is already there on Shabbos. Why not? Because Rabban know that what's the issue here? Borer. Because you're separating the dregs from the wine. But one is allowed to do borer on Yom Tov, but therefore you can put the wine and the dregs into one which is already extended over on Yom Tov.
on Shabbos, can you move it directly, or does it have to be Tuach?
No, you can move it directly. According to Rabbi Lezer, right? And according to Rabbana, you can't move it anyway. We pass by Rabbana. Tani, we learned. I should say what we learned here is all wrong. The Gersa in the Yerushalmi here is all messed up. What it should say is, first of all, Zopar, which is missing here. It should say, instead of lo nechluku, etc., it should say, Modim chachomim Rabbi Lezer. Chachomim can see the point to Rabbi Lezer. She'ein osim olim b'tchilu b'yontiv. You can't make an ohel to begin with on yontiv. Can't pitch a tent on yontiv. That's obviously his issue. Aman echluku, what was the machlogas? Amosifim, whether you're allowed to add to a tent. If you have a pre-existing tent, can you add on to it? Rabbi Lezer says you cannot. And not on Yontif ain't circle on Shabbos. Let's say you can't do it on Shabbos. The Chachomim say Mosifim b'Shabbos ain't circle on Yontif. You can. You can't pitch the tent, but you can expand the tent even on both on Yom Tov and even on Shabbos. Now Rabbi Eliezer is consistent. Well, why is Rabbi Eliezer consistent? Because Rabbi Eliezer says you can't add on Yom Tov nor on Shabbos, right? What does it mean you can't add? Can't extend it, right? I mean, you can't expand it, but to extend it is okay, right? Here, what?
What's the difference between expanding and
Expanding means, in other words, if I have, let's say, if this is slightly too small, so I expand it a little bit. It's stretching it, right? Extending means if this is always covering, to cover the whole thing. Okay? So now, and the Gemara's question those are Rabbanan. Gemara's question on Rabbanan, why are Rabbanan Machmir here, and they said you can't stretch it, they said you're allowed to be, they said that you're allowed to be matir, you're allowed to be mosif. Right, Rabbanan say you're allowed to be mosif on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. Why are you allowed to be mosif if you're not allowed to be? Why allowed to add if you're not allowed to expand? Extend. Why allowed to add if you're not allowed to extend? So it says more again. The kol lo b'tosefes anu kayomim. That's in the fifth line down the Gemara. Because aren't we here talking about adding on? And here Chachamim say you're not allowed to add on. So over there, why they say you're allowed to add on? Our mission is talking about a new mishmeres. It was never used before, and therefore the first time you extend it, you're actually being makabapatish because you're giving it its full dimensions for the first time. That's awesome. That didn't allow. It's supposed to mosifin to adding on, meaning moving it over or adjusting or whatever the case may be, where it's already a used one, it's already been used once, so that's not makapatish and that's okay. No, because it's extending and then what's the opposite of extend? What's the opposite of extend? Contract. No, that's expand. What's the opposite of extend? Yeah. Retract. Okay, because it's extending and retracting as opposed to creating, opposed to making. Okay, and that's what he says. The first time using it makes it suitable for use. So it says more now, if that's the case, if our mission is talking about where you're extending it for the first time, now you certainly are making me a problem with Rabbi Eliezer. Because there Rabbi Eliezer said you're not allowed to pitch a tent on Yom Tov, right? And here Eliezer says you're allowed to pitch this strainer on Yom Tov. What's the difference, right? So says the Gemara, I'll tell you. I'm sorry. First, Gemara goes to the question itself. Ma'im Taman shemachshir lekeli. Now, Taman here in Yerushalmi, of course, means here. If here in Yerushalmi, where you're making it a keli for the first time, at Omar Mutter, you say it's okay. Rabbi Eliezer, Khan over there. By adding on, by extending, Sheina Machshir L'Kli, you're not making a Kli for the first time. Lo Koshke, it's a Nakavachomer that it's Mutter. So Chanina said, Asid Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yehuda. No. Rabbi Eliezer goes to Rabbi Yehuda. Tani B'Shem Rabbi Yehuda. We learn name Rabbi Yehuda. Af Machshiri Ochel Nefesh Yitiru. Here, Vadet Doraisa. Sure, it's a Doraisa. Right? Here, it is Mati, however, because it's Ochel Nefesh. Why is it Ochel Nefesh? Because you're straining your wine. There, in the case of the Tosefta, it's not a case of Ochel Nefesh, it's building a tent. It's extending a tent. It's not a tent over a vessel, a strainer, it's a tent mamish. And at that mamish is no eter v'ochel nefesh. So that's why Rabbi Lezer here was mekel and said you're allowed to do the first initial shaping of the vessel even on Yom Tif, because he holds, just like he holds machshir mitzvah doichel Shabbos, he also holds machshirei ochel nefesh, the preparations for food are doichel Shabbos, as opposed to the as to most Rabban hold machshir ochel nefesh not mutter. You can't make a keli, right? You can, once you have a keli, you can use it. That's okay. But you can't make keli, so therefore Rabban our Mishnah are machmir. Okay. It says more asid Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yehuda. We asked Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yehuda. The Al Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yehuda time Shermu and learn Rabbi Yehuda. Av machshir ochel nefesh ochetiru. Even the machshir of ochel nefesh in the preparations are mutter. Racham Shem Rabbi Bo said kedivrei machshir ubilvad milamalon. Now Rabbi said it's okay to do. It's all right to extend as long as it's connected on top. The Mashbiach reads the word bilvad uvelovad. Lavad mean like lavud, means connected. In other words, it's got to be connected on top. Okay, so it has to be connected, because then this is the way we paskin. By the way, this is not mumbo jumbo. If you have, let's say, a baby carriage with an awning, you can only spread the awning if it was already partially extended before Shabbos. That's what I'm saying. A voucher it has to already be extended somewhat. It can be held up, but it doesn't have to be free. Just dropped on whatever we're talking about. But it has to be somewhat extended. Okay, kada. Like this case, fascinating case. Have a riva b'bei midrasha. Now, in my opinion, everybody translates riva wrong. Even Lieberman b'chvoido v'atzmo. They learn revia as milashon reclining. Revia, and it's not clear to me exactly where they get the usage, but that's how you learn. But revia, of course, means rain.
What?
Rain. Okay, there's in the Gemara and the Bavli in several times in Sechetay it talks about Revia Rishona, Revia Shnia, the first rain of the season, the second rain of the season. Rain is called Revia. The Gemara says in time it's because it's Rovea Sadoma. It procreates with the land because they're true. What? So once it was raining in the base medrash. So leak in the roof, right? From yesterday already, there had been curtains extended, midal amos, but they weren't extended over the entire ceiling of the base medrash. They extended only 4 amos. When Mochor have a particle, and the next day they extend them over the entire base medrash, even though it was Shabbos, because they wanted to keep out the water. Savrus, they wanted to say, Savru Meimar Midiva Rabilim and Pazi. They wanted to say that they had heard that this had been heard, the permissibility had been heard for the Rosh Yeshiva, Ravina and Pazi. But kun v'ashkechul, so they went and they checked, and the lav midas Ravina and Pazi. That wasn't Ravina and Pazi, because Ravina and Pazi holds ad sheyifros ruban. You can't extend the curtains or the ceiling or the covering. Unless the majority of it had been already extended from before Shabbos, and here only 4 amos of it being extended before Shabbos. Rachiv Hashem Rabbi Yochanan said, Hanotea, now I don't think it should be notea, I think it should be hanotea only, because that's a verb use. So he puts up a tent, b'Shabbos, chai m'shubona. Even if he doesn't start pounding pegs into the ground, I would say it's chai because of bonet, because Yerushalmi holds that temporary binyan is also binyan. We learned that a few days ago. So therefore, even if a person builds something which is not a permanent structure, it's chai because of bonet. Or Rabbi said, Eino ela kipursa makapim Shabbos. It's not bonet, because you're only extending them and folding them back on Shabbos. So therefore, that's not going to be true bonet.
Rabbi Bar Kohen Bakum Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Bar Kohen asked for Rabbi Yossi. Ha'en kilo dalaroi damau. Am I allowed to open and close the parochas on the Aron Kodesh? Fascinating question. I'm making mechitza every time I open and close it, right? So the Yerushalmi answers in line with their previous principle, right? Amalei came with the Prusa Miesmo, since it was already somewhat extended over there from beforehand. For yesterday, Nasika Posech Mano Shabbos, it's just like opening and closing a door. It's not like creating a wall and destroying a wall, because it's made to be opened back and forth. Rabbi Chia Barashi B'Shem Shmuel said, "Hamisham, if you do mishamer, Chacham Master in Mishnah, if you do strain the wine from the dregs, Chai Mishabor Chai because of borer, you separate it improperly. Rabbi Chia Lo Mistabra El Misham Market, it's because not a borer, which means separate, but because of market, which is like when you
that you are allowed to take them as
when you sift. Sifting grain is called harkola, because you make it dance in the pan. Okay, so I just made that up now, but it sounds good. Originally they say originally we said to Rabbi Zir and Rabbi Shmuel that to Rabbi Zir it's a good svara to say it's because of market. Rabbi Zira, Rabbi Zira said, however, Ma marakit kemach lematam sos l'malon. Somebody who sifts his flowers on the bottom and his coarser granules are on top, right? Solos is bran or coarser granules. Ava mishamer yayin tapatzayig avam rav. Even somebody who strains wine, yain lamato u'shmar lamato, the smaller pieces, just like over there, the flour goes into the basin, and the coarser pieces stay on top. So to hear that the wine goes down and the preserves go, the dregs stay on top. So therefore, it's very similar to Harkodah. The same reason Harkodah also should apply to this, because the same thing happens. The coarse stuff stays on top, and the fine stuff goes to the bottom, or the liquid stuff in our case, right? So v'lo avina narmin klun. That's originally assumed. They're chayakas and Moroccan, and that's why, because it's similar in physical appearance. But we were not saying anything. It was not true. Why? Lama. How can I prove that? Because hutzar, there's a word missing here. It should be biyontif. Because you're allowed to akora and yontif. Mikla brera. Shuter biyontif mikla brera. It's not us here because of brera. Huter mikla shimmer also doesn't have to be watched. Hutar. Since it says Hutar Mikla Brera, I'm not sure Hutar Mikla Shmir is.
Because remember, you need to know in other words, that we're sticking to, that's teaching us that we're allowed to take this kind of that we're keeping.
Shimon, I guess, is some sort of tolad or brera, because we said Mishan, it's removing the shmorim, so I guess it's something related. I'm not sure exactly, but it's a related activity of some sort. Anyway, uter mikla brera, since it's muter and shar yotiv to brera, you can even use kalim, barakadarko, in the normal fashion, b'cheiko, whether it be with your lap, with tamchoy, whether it be with a pot. Huter mikla shimor. Mutar Mikla Shimor means you can move the dregs. Noisim L'Kluya B'Yontif means you're allowed to put the dregs in a dangled sieve from before on Yontif. Yet it says there below Hutar Mikla Arkoda Yontif. You're not allowed to do Arkoda. So if it was a lot of sifting, it would be forbidden on Yontif nonetheless.
The Marabi Chaynina Broka, because Rechina Broka B'Shem Yehuda said, Ein Shonim Es HaKemach, one is not allowed to re-sift the flour on Shabbos. Aval Markim L'Acharei Nafel, the only way to do it is by sifting with a shiur, doing it on the back of the normal sieve. So in any event, in Teimu Shumarka, we're just saying that there are ways in which you can do the harakata on Yontif, right? But you have to do it with a only have to do with the shinui.
So in the end, Yerushalmi holds you're allowed to do brera and Yontif.
Yeah. But now let's do harakata. That's what we're getting at. Again, in Teimu Shumarka, it's because in market it's also our Mishnah, where it says that you're allowed to be Meshamer, it can't because of our Kodah, because our Kodah is not Mutter. Our Kodah is only Mutter B'derech Shinui, because our Kodah is Osir. Okay? So therefore, Rabbi Yisrael Rebun, Udlok Rabbi Yehuda, it's not going Rabbi Yehuda either. The Tani B'Shem Rabbi Yehuda, Ab Machshir Ochel Nefesh Yitiru. It's also Matir Machshir Ochel Nefesh, and we're not Matir Machshir Ochel Nefesh here. Even on Yontif, right? This Machshir Ochel Nefesh, prepare the sieve, would be Machshir Ochel Nefesh. You're preparing to make Ochel Nefesh, he doesn't allow you to do so. Boya da milso. How do we know that? Because we have this question. Ma'u l'shanos kemach la'chorei anapo karabona. I'm sorry, I misread that. Boya da milso ma'u l'shanos kemach la'chorei napo karabona. That which we asked, whether you're allowed to do a flour upside down, an upside down sieve, it's according to Rabbanon, that question. Because Rabbanon only were matir harkoda on the back side of the sieve. The question is, are you allowed to do harkoda? No.
The mice is really a good thing.
I'm making too big a deal of this. Means, like Rabbi Yehuda, of course you're allowed to do our kodah, because like Rabbi Yehuda, even Machshir Ochel Nefesh is mutter, right? Allowed to do anything. You have to prepare, cut down trees to make wood in order to make Ochel Nefesh, according to Rabbi Yehuda. The shaila is, are you allowed to do our kodah on grain? According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's partial you are. According to Rabbanon, the shaila is, are you allowed to do it? Because Rabbanon hold you're not allowed to do Machshir Ochel Nefesh. So I have to say, Boy da milsa ma'u l'shanas kema chori napak Rabbanon. Like Rabbanon, you're not allowed to do our kodah yontif, are you allowed to do the shinu or not? That's the question. It's the only question. Like Rabbanan, not question according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's partial mutter. Okay?
What about on Shabbos?
For sure not. That with the amata with the shinu, it's only on a yontif, right? Not on Shabbos, right? I mean, I assume that's the case.
Wine, you can't do on Shabbos.
What?
You can't.
No, you can't. That's that Rabbi Lezer was matter that. We Chachamim don't ask, Chachamim don't matter because they hold takabore.
What if you need it for Kiddush?
What?
Shabbos, if you need it for Kiddush, it's Ochel Nefesh for.
Too bad, there's no heter Ochel Nefesh. The thing is that's just said on Yontif it's mutter to do, and we proved that it must be because of Bora, not because of our kodah. Because if it was because of our kodah, it was called sifting, so then it's also even on Yontif, so it must be just called Bora. Okay. Says the mission further, Noisi Mayim Agabi Shmorim was allowed to put water on top of dregs, Bishvil Yitzlu, in order that the water should run clear and have a taste of wine. When it's allowed to strain wine in sudorim, in cloth garments, ubekfivos mitrios, or in the Egyptian baskets, because that's not considered to be derech breira at all. No, truth is, I think it's more than that. I think because you get back whatever strained out is also suitable to eat or to drink, and therefore it's not ochel mitoch psos, but ochel mitoch ochel, which is okay. That's a separate problem. You are coloring, and the question is whether not so much coloring, but maybe you'll squeeze out the dye. So I guess Kohanim's reason him, they knew what to. Oh, it's not Kohanim.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the care of Machanecha.
Take that back.
Even Shechotu, once they already
It's all for moments based on Mikdash, but it's not. I don't know. It's just they don't bother dealing with it, but you're right, there could be a problem. So you take a colored rag. A colored rag. A colored shmata to do your straining. So you're not dying. So Ray died.
There's no egg change.
Oh,
There's no coloring by food.
there's no coloring by food, yeah. Ain't three of both, according to most posting. I thought you were talking about coloring the cloth. But coloring the cloth is also a good question. Right. Okay. So name it. They always allowed to do it. Nicely baked to Mr. Shachayim was allowed to put a mustard in an egg in a mustard sieve. We don't want to make it more yellow. Once Yerushalmi Shabbos allowed to make a special spiced wine called Yadmulin on Shabbos. But I don't remember Shabbos because it depends. On Shabbos can make it in a cup. If Yontif Lagi, Yontif can make it in a jug. But we'll go ahead and you can even make it in a barrel. So the comment depends what not on the day, but I'll go for your argument on how many gifts you have. So come in, take. Now, when you make the strainer out of a cloth, you shouldn't make it like a teak, which is like a container, like a teak is a briefcase, right? What? Like a pouch. Good word. Why? Because then it looks like you're building. Boya da milsa. They asked the question, are you allowed to, now I don't understand exactly how this works, but somehow you turn the cloth you want to use as a strainer on its side and it doesn't become an oil. I don't know exactly how that works, but anyway, Shabbos. You're allowed to do it sideways, even though it will become a tent-like thing, a tent-like protection for whatever you're putting it on. But you're allowed to do it as long as you don't make an additional doorway in the process of doing so, which is going to be a problem. Not a doorway. Unless as long as you don't do it on Shabbos, the same way you do it on a weekday. In other words, you have to do it with a shiur. But once you do the shiur, even if you're going to put in the cloth in a way which makes some form, it's okay.
Normally you would do it this way, so on Shabbos you do it this way. You're
not making a form? Why it's not making a pouch? It was upside down? Maybe that's why.
It's not containing anything. If anything, it's emptying.
That could be. Master said, Kini Masdiso. Came back to our Mishnah. This is the way to read it. When it's allowed to separate an egg and toss it around in the mustard strainer, but not actually to borer on the egg. So of course you can't be borer the yolk from the white. What it means is that both the yolk and white will get yellow, and then you'll put them back together again. Right? You want to get a yellowish tinge. That's how you're rolling them out of the mustard seed. So the bottom line is you'll bring it back together then, and then you'll consume them. Okay. Gush shel one of us is a block of mustard. So Rabbi Yisrael said, in order to crush, you can crush with your hand and not with a vessel. Rabbi Yaakov Baracho and Rabbi Yochanan said, according to the Mashbiach, this should be the exact opposite. This is not exact opposite. You can crush the mustard with a vessel, but not with your hand. Rabbi Yochanan said, wait, what are you saying? That the shiur is to do it with a vessel? Va'alo, and this says haklovim, but it should be alo b'chol yom, says Mashbiach. Every day in Osim Kain, right? You don't every day use your hand. Then on Shabbos, a keli should be a shiur, right? You're assuming that every day a person uses his hands, and therefore on Shabbos he should do the shiur, which is to use his vessel. Who says? Right? Perhaps they don't necessarily do it by hand, they can do it by vessel as well. Good question, why doesn't answer it? Rabbi Chizkiah and Rabbi Yoel said, they said you're allowed to I forgot what that means. It means to crush, but what are we crushing? Oh, for the vessel seed, right. You have to do both with the hand and both with the vessel because there's no significant shinui. Or it's where there to be a significant shinui, we look for it. But we said a line ago that both ways of doing it exist, right? Doing it both by hand and by the implement during all the days of the week. So therefore, the bottom line is no shiur to make. There's no shiur to make and just go and do it outright.
During the week you do clean it because it's easier.
Yeah, but I don't know what mustard is. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe mustard is so soft that it's not necessary. But you asked a good question. I don't know the answer. Rabbi Yasser B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, Yain with vashpilpulain, wine and honey and peppers. Okay? So it's a good dish which is good for refuah, but it's also good because,
What's
a kiddush. It's also good, I guess, because it's also good for refuah, even though it's also good for refuah, but a regular lay person can use it as well. And we don't ask because of refuah.
This is the ingredient. These are the ingredients to yahoo.
Yeah. Yain, vash, and pilpul. Any problem?
Drink it.
Okay. And it's not hot peppers, sweet peppers. All right. And now for the Coca-Cola. Okay, ain't sure.
That's exactly it.
Ain't sure it's a chiltis. You can't sow chiltis. It's a very sharp vegetable, but poach it in lukewarm water. According to many sources, that's because it's going to get cooked. Other sources because uvda the chol, it looks like a weekday. I've noticed that the chol, we can put it into vinegar. Ain't sure it's a karshin. Can't put what a karshin again? I forget. Some other vegetable. Below shaving osam, and you can't rub them. But you can put them into a ka'ora, and here on the side it changes to you change that to kavara. You can put them into a sieve, or into a basket in order to transport them from place to place, as long as your intent is not to sift. Also, you can put your grain on a high place so that the chaff falls off. So you can take stuff in your sieve where your intent is not to sift it but just to carry it, and you can transport it to the what?
Is an apis a trough?
Yeah, it's actually a feedback. What it means is that, I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can carry it even in a keli which you can't use on Shabbos. But you can't sift it, but you can use the sieve in order to, as a bucket, to carry the grain from place to place. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay? Carry it from one trough to another trough. Or feedback to another feedback. Alright, but Ramana said, Kili Masis is the way to read our Mishnah. I've no sifo but you can put in front of you in water. But if it's cold water, it's okay. It's okay. You'll have to put it even in cold water. You'll have to put the chiltis in cold water. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yasser said, I feel a bit so enough, you're not allowed to even put chiltis in cold water. Rabbi Yochanan said, lo shon el potion. You don't say now to put chiltis in lukewarm water, so cold water is okay. Ella, al chinam yaganu, For naught, we learned this Mishnah because we don't paskin like our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says you can do it in cold water, you just can't do it in lukewarm water. The way you just told me, Rabbi Yana, I can't even do it in lukewarm water, can't even do it in cold water. So I learned the Mishnah was for naught. The Radal says it means that we see here you can't paskin halach out of a Mishnah. Which is the general principle, you can't paskin out of a Mishnah because then he would have been led astray to assume that in cold water you're allowed to soak the chiltis. There are others who say, Al-Chinam Yaganos Bitmiyah. That's what Korban says. We work for nothing. In other words, we understood the Mishnah well. How can you, Rabbi Yana, come and change our understanding and say the parameters are different? Shmuel Amar Chiltis Atzma. Rav Huna Amar Mei Chiltis Mutar Shtotim Shabbos. Rav Huna says that you're allowed to drink Chiltis waters on Shabbos that doesn't look like refuah, even if you do it for refuah purposes. Shmuel Amar Chiltis Ma'atzma Ma'achol B'Yimim. Shmuel said Chiltis itself is eaten by healthy people and therefore allowed to eat it on Shabbos. Somebody who eats the measure of a zuz of Chiltis, mistaken, he's in danger. And his skin starts peeling off of him. It's so sharp. Okay? Ain't Tresach Hashem not allowed to soak the hops, Mishum Borer, somehow that's Borer. Ain't Shavin El Sam, you're not allowed to rub them, Shum Dosh, I guess you get a liquid out of a solid or something like that. Anyway, it's considered to be Dosh. Ain't covering as Satem Bikvar, one is not allowed to. I did, you're right. Rabbi Ba Ascha Masko Zuzamine Parish Lenar. Rabbi Ba ate a measure of this chiltis and he ran to the river because he got so hot he was afraid his skin was going to burn off of him. Sorry. Ain't Travis Kashay not allowed to soak the Kashay Mishum Bora because of Bora. Ain't Travis Sami not allowed to rub them Mishum Dash. Somehow it's Dash, I guess you're removing the chaff by doing that. Ain't Korean Satem Mikvar, one is not allowed to sift the hay or the straw in a sieve. You can't put it on a high place on the side mountain in order that chaff should fall down the mountain and the grain should remain on top because that's also a form of sifting. Okay, one is allowed to remove animal fodder from in front of an ox which is being fattened for slaughter. You can push it aside, so it doesn't get defecated upon by the ox. Rabbi Chacham say this is forbidden. You can't move it. Now, why can't you move it? So the pashtus is you can't move it because it's muktzah for the animals eating, right? Anyway, so says. Was allowed to take from one animal and give to another animal. Okay? Even on Shabbos. This is talking about food. Was allowed to take food from one animal and give it to another animal. Okay? That you're allowed to do. So to sweep it away on the floor from the animal so it doesn't defecate on it, that you're not allowed to do. But to take it from one animal to another animal, that's not, I guess it's not muktzah, I guess it's a tircha issue. That you're allowed to do. Alright? Is that clear? It's not moved from that one animal, but moved from animal to animal is okay.
Maybe sweeping is not allowed because it's smooth.
I think the Yerushalmi said Ashwiya Gumos. We've had it so many times already. The Yerushalmi begrudges us one more using the word, so I don't think so. Maybe.
I think we know by now. They don't
Why are you not allowed to move it from in front of one cow, lest it defecate? Because an ox is just being fat and it eats the stuff which was lying around the excrement. So for the fact that the ox might defecate on it, it's not enough reason to move the stuff. Boy, they asked this question. Allowed to take from one animal, give to another animal. Sisu asked Gemara, it's not our Mishnah. You can take from one animal, put another. Put another animal, put it from another animal on Shabbos. Says Mar, no. Our Mishnah talk about giving from one cow to another cow. My shaila is moving from a cow to a donkey. You're allowed to do that. Well, Tani learned. No, well, let's see. We learned. No saying should be lifnei apara. One can take for it in front of a donkey and give to a cow. Lifnei bein should be right. You can take for an animal which has a bad mouth, bad teeth, can't chew. Nice lifnei bein we ever give it to an animal which can't chew. So we see you're allowed to do so. Hakasha gabi amito. If you have straw on top of your bread, lo inaneh biyod, you can't move it with your hand because it's muktzah. Avom inaneh b'guf, you can move with your body because that's lachayad. If it was animal fodder, or shel of karo sadi, or was designated by virtue of there being upon it a pillow or a sheet, minaneh biyod, then you're allowed to actually move it with your hand. A press used by a ba'abos no material allowed to undo avalo kovshim, not allowed to tighten the press in order to take the crease out of your pants. You shall kovsim if it's a press of a professional launderer, but he can be allowed to touch on Shabbos at all. Why is that? Because according to Pnei Moshe says because the muktzah machmas chesron kiss, you might come to use it, and the Kormeida says because it looks like you're sosa, like you're destroying it. And Gemara sounds like Kormeida when we get over there. Even if the professional press was printed before Shabbos, then you're allowed to. I guess it's untie your clothes and remove your clothes from the press. So even the professional one, if it was already over before Shabbos, you're allowed to go there and move your clothes from it. Okay? Said to Shai for the Masisa Shlo Yoshua Masma. When you're not allowed to hold the straw, when you didn't sleep on the bed yesterday, so it never became designated, right? If you slept on the bed yesterday, then the straw becomes like your body, you're allowed to move it. I'm Rabbi Yaakov Yerushalmi, the original people used to ask, can you move the straw with your elbows? Is that enough of la'achrayat? Do the straw with your elbow. Rabbi Yana said, very interesting language. Everybody goes crazy over this. The Kikar Ordan gives the shot which Lieberman likes the most. But most it says, Karech, you got a bald person, Krecha, bald, you make him more bald. Kipach, a person who's forsaken or short change, Kapocha, short change of some more. You have a person who's Shvoch Tzaninim, Aman Adele. You have a person who's cold, pour more cold water on them. Nafa Beisa Aman, it should be the reveal. You have a person whose it's raining on, and here everybody agrees reveal means rain. His house will fall on him. So it means is once you have a pattern, the pattern continues. So therefore, if la'achrayat is mutter, the way Pnei Moshe explained it, la'achrayat is mutter, it's mutter even with this. It doesn't have to be la'achrayat with some other part of the body, it can even be mutter with this as well. Okay? Rabbi Chia, where Chia said a fascinating, depressing thing, Hadein Dein Lani, this Torah which we got, it's bad for poor people. How so? He says the way this Kikar Ordan explains it, or Kikar Ordan or the Rodal? Kikar Ordan. He says that a rich guy, he has a pillow, so he can move his straw on Shabbos because he had a pillow on before Shabbos. A poor guy, he didn't have a pillow, so therefore he can't move his straw on Shabbos. So a poor person, he's doubly cursed. He don't got no money, and therefore he doesn't get the perks either. Okay. Vatani. Now, getting back to the Yishur in our Mishnah of the press. Vatani, we learn money chacham le'armei chol yitzir armei b'chol summer shebekarka. If you have seals and something in the ground, shebefakbekin, that one can loosen them, mafkin, and even undo them, and even undo them. Matir, all these are synonyms for various different types of cutting loose the bonds. The chotchim, you're allowed to cut them. It should be beyontif. You're allowed to do all these things on yontif. B'Shabbos, mifakvikin, you're allowed to loosen it a little bit. Avlo mafkin, but you cannot separate the individual threads. Lo matir, nor can you undo the knot. V'lochotchim ain't allowed to cut. Okay? V'lochotchim came b'Shabbos. V'lochotchim. B'kelim, if that's all talking about, that's what's talking about if it's connected to the ground, right? That's good. If you have a rope connected to the ground, so you're not allowed to do any of these things on Shabbos. What you're allowed to do is loosen a little bit, not cut it, sever it, etc., etc. Okay? On the other, you're allowed to, but not on Shabbos. A rope connected to the ground, l'chubil l'karka. So, but kalim, but it's a rope which is on a vessel. The Shabbos mutar, Shabbos you're allowed to do all these things: loosen, cut, undo, etc., etc. Beit Tzarayot goes out saying that's mutar yotet. If that's the case, why by the press did they not allow you to open on Shabbos? Right? If they let you even loosen a rope attached to the ground, why did they not let you undo the press? So the Amra you have no choice but to say that they made the press like a ground. It's like the ground you're not supposed to really touch on Shabbos. A rope tied to the ground. So to this rope tied to the press, you're not allowed to undo it on Shabbos. Rabbi Yisrael said, Masdisa or Makir. Our Mishnah says that. Shel Kovsin lo yiga bahen. It says that if it belongs to a laundry, you're not allowed to touch it, which is substantial evidence. What we just said, that it's not considered to be proper to move it on Shabbos because Chachamim gave it the status of as if it was ground itself. Okay, that's the end of all the Gemara in the Yerushalmi. Let us learn some Mishnayos. Now, to just the interest of saving time, since we have 10 minutes left, I will use the Kahati. Don't tell anybody.
Put it on tape.
I was just kidding. Okay, I'll read a Mishnah and translate. No two of them is Benov Em Biyado, Vakal of Em Besochim, Metalkin Trumat Meim, Torah of Yimachluin. One may take a stone, his son, and a stone in his hand. I'm sorry. One may take his son, and a stone is in his hand, and a supply basket, and a stone which is in it. The English here is so bad. And one may move unclean to Ruma with clean and with ordinary produce. Rabbi says one may even take up the meduma from 101. Mishnah 2. However, Shapi Achavis Mator Tidavino Feles, so Isaben Achavios Magbil Mator Tidavino Feles, Mosha Kar, Noas Akar Ve Noflos, Hoisa love of Lashes, Mikancho Bismartut, Hoisa Shalor, Nosila Maimachatikle. If a stone is on the mouth of a jug, he may incline it on its side so it falls. If it was between the jugs, he may raise it and incline it on its side and it falls. If there are coins on the cushion, he may shake the cushion and they fall. If there was a dirty substance on it, he may wipe it with a rag. If it was of hide, one may put water on it until it is gone. Mishnah Gimel. Beisharim Magbi min HaShulchan Atzamos uklipin Beisomim notel satavlo kulu minara Mavim lifnei HaShulchan Peiruim pachot.
Ours reverses the names.
Or reverse the names of Shammai Yisrael?
Yeah, Beisil is first, Beishamai second.
Oh, really? Okay. Mavim lifnei HaShulchan Peiruim pachos mikazayis B'ser shafurim b'ser shadoshim neshu macho behema Sfog im yesh lo beis orachiza mekanchim bo Im lav and if not Yilav ein mekanchim bo Chormim vein kach uvein kach nito v'shavas vein makabel tuma. Beis Shammai says one may raise from up from the table bones and shells, but Beis Hillel says he takes the entire board and shakes it. One may remove from before the table less than an olive's bulk of crumbs and pods of peas and pods of lentils, because it is animal food. If a sponge has the leather handle, one may wipe with it, and if not, one may not wipe with it. But the sages say in either case it may be handled on Shabbos, but it cannot become unclean. Mishnah, that's the end of the prayer. Next prayer.
That's great.
Chavish nishbra. Matzei man mozer shalosh sudos. Voimer lachem bo batzil lachem vatshlo yisbog vein sochat in esaper slotim me mashkin. Yotzu miatzmo nasurin Rabbi Yehuda Meri melochin hayetzim me mutar. Vilmash Kener Tamim Nasur, Chalos Fasher Ishkamer of Shabbos Yotzim Atzlan Asurin, Reb Lezer Matir. If a jug was broken, one may save from it food for 3 meals. And one may say to others, come and save for yourselves, provided he does not absorb. One may, means absorb in it like in a paper towel. One may not press fruit to extract from it liquids. And if they came out by themselves, they are prohibited. Rabbi Yehuda says, if for food, in other words, it went on to food, what comes out from them is permitted, like a lemon on chicken. And if it for drink, what comes to them is prohibited. If honeycombs are crushed before Shabbos, and it came forth by itself, it is prohibited. But Rabbi Eliezer permits. Debates. Kol sheba mechami erev Shabbos shelo b'chami Shabbos. Kol shelo b'chami erev Shabbos medichno so b'chami Shabbos. Chutz min hamaliach hayoshin v'dogim luchim kitanim v'kuyas ha'ispanim shadachos on higamar malachton. Whatever comes in hot water before Shabbos, one may soak it in hot water on Shabbos. And whatever did not come in hot water before Shabbos, one may rinse it in hot water on Shabbos. Except for an old salted dish and small salted fish and a Spanish kuyas. For this rinsing is the completion of their work. Okay, it's interesting. It's called Makab Patish. The Kati calls it boiling. Because he's calling the Bavli, there's no Makab Patish by Ochlin. We who know Yerushalmi know that Gemara Malachton can indicate that it's Makab Patish by Ochlin. Pretty good ride from the Mishnah. Next parak? No, not yet. Mishnah Gimel. Shavra Zachavis Lecho Imena Grogras. Uvad Shlis Kavin Lesos Kli. Ve'nokvi Megufa Shachavis. Div Rabbi Yehuda. V'cholim Matirit. Lo Yikavena Mitzida. V'Moiset. Okay. Lo Yikavena Mitzida. V'Moiset Nekuva. Lo Yitein Le'ashava. V'Neishu Me'orech. Rabbi Yehuda Maisa Bolivnei Reyoch Metzakai. Ba'achov. V'Amar Choshlayim Lo Mechatos. One may break a jug to eat from it dried figs, provided that he did not intend to make a vessel. And one may not bore a bung of a jug. Ooh, boy. What's a bung? The top. So Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda. The words Rabbi Yehuda. But the sages permit. And one may not bore it from its side. And if it was pierced, he may not put on it wax, because he is spreading. Rabbi Yehuda said, Insa came before Rabbi Yochanan Zaki and Arab, and he said, I fear for him that he must bring a sin offering. Mishnah Nosin Tavshu Tochabor Bishul Sheir Shomer Vesamayim Yovim Baroim Bishul Sheir Tzanu Vesatzonim Bachamay Bishul Chamu Bishul Shukel Baderach B'Mayim Malach Boen Ve'enu Choshesh Yigil Chotzer Chitzoyna Shovcham B'Chamo Avolo Keneged Am. One may put cooked food into well so it will be preserved, and good water into bad so that it will become cold, and the cold in the sun so that it will become hot. If one's garments fell on the way into the water, he may walk in them and need not fear. But if you not need to fear, but fear itself. But if you reach the outer courtyard, he may spread them in the sun, but not opposite the people. Mishnah. Harochin to be made more of mate very of any stopping. Some of you, I feel best. I lean to Osloivian Biodo. I have a sorry and stopping a lutas achas. Prename and then raglaim uvinos and Biodo. If one washed in the water of a cave and in the water of Tiberias, and he wipes, even with 10 towels, he may not bring them in his hand. But if 10 people wipe with one towel their faces, their hands, and their feet, then they may bring it in the hand. They'll remind each other not to squeeze it. It says here. Ve'im atzvin es hakotan, ve'im machzir es hashever, nishriv goyodo v'chaklo, lo yitafem betzoinin, havarochet zugedarko v'nisrapi. One may anoint to rub the stomach, but one may not knead nor scrape. One may not go down to the kordima nor use apiktizin, a pickaxe. And one may not manipulate a child nor set a fracture. If anyone's hands are forward dislocated, may not dash cold water on them. but he washed them in a normal manner, and if he healed, he is healed. Next parak, 23. Shoda mechaver kadiyim chadishem v'atzlu yomer lo halveini chenisha mechaver to kikoros v'imeno mamino maniach taliso etzlo v'osimu cheshbon lachar Shabbos v'chein erev Pesach shebYerushalmi Shabbos b'Shabbos maniach taliso etzlo v'notos pischo v'osimu cheshbon lachar Shabbos. It's about transactions on Shabbos. A man may borrow from his fellows jugs of wine and jugs of oil, right? That is not say to them, loan me. And presumably a woman from her fellows loaves. And if he does not trust him, he may leave his cloak with him, and he makes an accounting with him after Shabbos. Similarly, Pesach, even Jerusalem falls on Shabbos, he leaves his cloak with him, and he takes his Pesach sacrifice, and he makes an accounting with him after the festival. Maybe seen born of him, maybe so shulchan, virtually scribing last morning, Kadol Kanega Mono Katano, Mishum Kanektan, Mishum Kubia, Matil Cholosh Kochbiot, the Bavlo, Monos. A man may count his gets and his courses from his mouth, but not from writing. And one may cast lots with his children and the members of his household about the table, provided that he does not intend to make a large portion as against a small portion, because of dice, like gambling. And they may cast their lots for sacrifices on a festival, but not for portions. Maybe Paris Biolo, clamor about Abishol, caution Izaka Bamirosa or Shiny Lachshicholov. A man may not hire laborers on Shabbos, and a man may not tell his fellow to hire laborers for him. One may not wait for nightfall at the Shabbos limit, means at the Tchum, to hire laborers and to bring produce. But he may wait for nightfall to guard, and he may bring produce in his hand. Abishol say the general rule, whatever I am allowed to speak of, I am permitted to wait for nightfall regarding it. Mishtadal. Machshichin al tchum mefakeh liskei kal liskei ameitz lo vilorem tachrichin kol shevi chalim b'Shabbos lo yisba ben Yisrael ami bo mokum kor elin kei bo mokum kor asu ha'arim v'chafar lo kever yikaver bo Yisrael v'im b'shvil Yisrael lo yikaver bo olamis. One may wait for nightfall at the Shabbat limit to care for the affairs of a bride and for the affairs of a corpse, to bring its coffin and shrouds. If a non-Jew brought flutes on Shabbos, a Jew may not eulogize with them, unless it came from a nearby place within the Tchum. If they made for him a coffin and they dug for him a grave, a Jew may be buried in it. And if they intended to make for a Jew, he may never be buried in it. It would have to be a grave a goy made for himself. Mishlei, Osi Kol Tzorch HaMeis. Sachin Madichin also, Vachla Ziza Boever, Shobdim Esakar Mitachto Matzino Solacho, Shushiamti, Kosh Salechi, Loshi Alel Shloyosif, Chen Korch Nishma, Somchis Besafso, Baruch Samita, Loshatal El Shalotosif, Ematzmim Amtines Ames B'Shabbos, V'lo B'chol Mitzias HaNefesh, V'amam Mitzias HaNefesh, they may make ready all the needs of the corpse, and they may anoint and wash it, provided that they do not move its limb. They may take away the cushion from it and place it on the sand so that it will keep. They may tie the jaw, not so that it will rise, but so that it may not increase. And similarly, in other words, get sag more. Similarly, if a beam is broken, one may not support with the bench, and with the long ones of the bed. The long beams, not so. One may support with a bench and with long ones of a bed, not so it will rise, but that may not increase. They may not close the eyes of a corpse on Shabbos, and not a weekday with the departure of a soul. And if one closes the eyes to the departure of the soul, then such a one sheds blood. Parachav Dalet. Whoever the Misheich Shebaderech. Those Kislu Nachri. Amen on Nachri, Miniach Chamor. Gil Chater Chitzona, Notos HaKelim, Haitol B'Shabbos, Vein Tol Shein Tol B'Shabbos, Matiras Chavolim, Vasaki Nosim Me'aleim. Whoever is overtaken by nightfall on the road gives his purse to a non-Jew. And if there is no non-Jew with him, he may place it on an a donkey. He reached the outer courtyard. He may take the vessels that may be handled on Shabbos, and those that may not be handled on Shabbos, he loosens the ropes and the sacks fall by themselves. Mishnah Beis, Matir P'kiyeh Amil Ifnei Beima, Mefasvasin Esakipin Avolos Azirin, Emraskin Los Ashachas Los Chul Ifnei Beima, Bedaka Ben Gasar Vira Matir Chul Nadaka. One may loosen bunches of shizim for cattle, and one may separate kifin but not zirin. Good translation there. One may not chop up young corn or carob pods before cattle, whether large or small. Rabbi Yehuda permits carob pods before the small. Keeping it in are different types of branches. Mishnah Gimel, Ein Obsis Gamo Avolo Dorsin Amalitin. Ve'marminas Hagolim Avo Malitin. Umahalkatin Latranigolim. Nosimayim Lamursa. Avolo Govli. Ve'nosimayim Vnei Dvorim Vnei Yonim Shebeshovach. Amnosim Vnei Avozi Targolim Vnei Yoni Ardesos. One may not stuff a camel and not cram, but one may put food in its mouth. And one may not stuff calves, but one may put food in their mouth. And one may not strew feed for fowls. And one may strew feed for fowls. And one may put water in coarse bran, but not need. And one may not put water before bees and before doves that are a dovecot. But one may put before geese and fowls and before yonei hardei sos. Mishdal mechatchim esadluim vnei behema ve'sanavei vnei klavim. Rabbi Yehuda Omer im loy sanavei me'erev Shabbos asur lefi she'enim min hamuchon. One may cut gourds for cattle and a carcass for dogs. Rabbi Yehuda says if it was not a carcass for Shabbos, it's prohibited because it was not designated. I will read part of Mishnah, but not the whole thing. The fearing the Torah Shabbos is shown in Vorm Shalom Tzor Shabbos. Talking to Samora, Modim Samatlis to Samikva. One may annul vows on Shabbos, and one may be asked about things that are needed for Shabbos. When you stop up a light hole and measure a strip and a mikveh and the mikveh, and the rest you can read when you make the siyum. I don't think we're going to make the siyum tonight.